Public Library and the CCCS. Today we have Tom and Donna who are going to tell us a little bit about what they do, but primarily we're going to focus on facing retirement challenges and being prepared for that next stage of our lives. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Donna, and I'm here with my coworker, Tom, and we're going to talk a little bit about the services that we provide and how we do that and why we do it. Tom's going to take over here, and then we'll get right into our retirement challenges workshop.
Okay. So Donna, do we have the front end deck there?
Yep.
There we go. Wonderful. All right. So we are Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Northern Illinois. We are a not-for-profit. We've been around since 1982. As I said, we're not-for-profit. We are grant-funded, which means that the services that we provide are mostly free of charge to our constituents. Our goal is to essentially be a personal finance and debt management. Essentially, what we do is personal finance and debt management counseling. You can see our mission statement on the left, which is just strengthening and empowering communities through counseling education. As you can see from the slide, we're in 3 locations. In Woodstock is our main location, and then we're also in Elgin and Fox Lake, which is the 3 counties that we serve, McHenry, Lake, and Kane counties. Now, those are kind of our main areas, but we have broadened out over the more of the Northern Illinois territory. So I know the first question we're going to get is, what about Cook and what about DuPage? And we're not specifically in there, but we work with people there all the time. So we are bilingual. And that bilingual means English and Spanish. We have counselors in all 3 offices that are bilingual. We're affiliates of the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. And as a result of that, our counselors are certified through NFCC for debt and credit counseling. And again, it kind of talks, we focus on everything in the management or the personal finance area, from basic budgeting to credit repair to debt management programs. Also, counselors are HUD certified for housing counseling, and we tend to help a lot of first-time buyers, foreclosure. We work on foreclosure prevention, reverse mortgages, and then we're also in the deeper end of the pool with bankruptcy counseling, and we do some education there as well. The fact of the matter is, I think our counselors tend to work more, or they're deemed to work more. Seems to be that they work a little bit more on the deeper end of the pool, but they'll also work with you with respect to budgeting and kind of less critical items. They're critical, but less disastrous items. We'll help you with your credit report. We'll help you, to get a better credit score, provide financial counseling to help you create a budget, housing, student loans, you name it. We, if it's in personal finance, we try to cover it as best we can. I think, and that's the counseling services that we provide there, typically fall into those 6 buckets. The next page talks about what Donna and I do on the education side, and it's more on the financial literacy side. And we'll talk a lot about budgeting, savings strategies. We'll help you understand how to use a credit card and how to understand a credit report and credit scores. We can talk about student loans. We do all sorts of workshops on these primary topics here. As I like to say, the budget is kind of the epicenter of everything. It's all part of the plan, the financial plan. Well, the financial plan is essentially a budget. And the budget has 4 pillars. It involves your income, your expenses, your savings, your debt, And then everything else on the outside of that all kind of feeds into one of those 4 pillars. But at the end of the day, the budget is at the epicenter of everything financial that you should do. And whether it's written down on a sheet of paper or, really kind of honed in on a spreadsheet, or if it's just something that you kind of have in the back of your mind and you're really paying attention to, once you start kind of focusing on a budget and getting that budget mentality, things really start to fall into place as far as the other stuff goes. So it's a mindset, but the budget is really at the epicenter of everything. And typically when you start a budget, we'll go on to the next page. Typically when you start a budget, it starts with long and short-term goals. And those goals can have multiple time horizons, but at the end of the day, usually when you're thinking about starting a budget, it's because, hey, I need to come up with some sort of short-term savings vehicle. I got burned on this once. I don't want to have it happen again. Or, my income and expenses are way off sides and I need to fix that. Maybe that your credit score is not as good as you want it to be, and you want to find a way to make it better. There's a lot of different reasons why you'd want to have a financial plan. Usually when you start with goals, that kind of leads into the budget, which leads into that. It's kind of that epicenter of everything that really kind of rolls into the financial plan. Typically when I see people and I talk to them about starting a budget, I always tell them to keep it reasonable, but within reason. Give yourself a little bit. Don't be too conservative. Don't be too aggressive. Try to really push on the idea of, give yourself some stretch goals, because typically when you start to work on a budget, when you start to work through a financial plan, you realize that, hey, this wasn't really quite as hard as I thought it was going to be. And it might be worth it to maybe take a little bit, give yourself a little bit of a stretch goal and say, hey, you know what, I did this, maybe I can do a little bit more. The budget is a living document, if you will. It continually moves and breathes and kind of evolves as you do. So it's nice. It's a great thing to have. It's a great plan to have. And the whole idea is that as things change, so too will your goals and your horizons and everything else. Always expect the unexpected, because it does happen, and don't give up. So today we're actually talking more about budget than we are about credit cards and debt, but it's a different presentation that we haven't quite put completely together yet. But we're going to talk today about facing retirement challenges and talk about those. So we're going to roll out of this screen and into the next one.
Okay, hold on. I'm not real good at this. Hold on.
So that's where you go into the
there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
can everyone see this?
Yes.
Yay. Okay. So now when we're talking about retirement challenges, of course, it all involves your financial health. That's what you've been working for or towards your whole life, or if you're not there yet, that's what you are working towards. And your financial health is the main topic here. So you want to evaluate your financial health, and I'm hoping that this is going to share. We're going to talk about what exactly is financial health. We all know about our physical health and our emotional health, but let's talk about financial health. Please let me know right away if this is not showing up. I'll be really sad if it doesn't. Can everyone see that?
It's not switching on our screen. So go, if you want to stop the share and then share the tab that has.
And then I have to do another one. Okay, hold on a second. Oh, that makes me really sad. Okay, so
it's a bad day for Donna. So
it is, yeah. So I just get it figured out on one streaming program, and then I think I have my act together, and I don't. So I stopped the share. So now I start it again?
Yes, with the window or tab that has the video on it.
You would have to start the video in a separate tab and then share that.
Okay. I'm kind of confused. Okay. There. And then the video. I don't think I can figure it out. I don't
We
see
know
it
a lot
on here.
about finance, but we're not that we're not that tech savvy with these new.
Yeah,
Let me
so
get
I'm
that.
just going to go back, and I'm really sad we won't be able to show any of the videos today, but I could talk about
I can
what is.
actually share the video, Donna. Give me 1 second.
Oh, that would be great. So should I pull it up?
I'll share the screen on my end.
Great, that will be good.
What is financial health?
Yay.
Okay, can you guys hear it good?
Yes.
I can, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Oh.
Financial health is one of the 8 interconnected components of total health. Financial health refers to understanding money and personal finances and knowing how to build financial security now and in the future. It's easy to assume that financial health simply connects to being rich or having a lot of money, but in reality, financial health is much more complex. Within the total health framework, financial health is all about financial security. This refers to the peace of mind you feel when you aren't worried about your financial situation. First, are your basic needs being met? Do you have a place to live? Do you have food? Do you have clothes to wear? And second, do you have the financial freedom to enjoy the extras in life? Due to the interconnected nature of health, financial health powerfully influences the other dimensions of your well-being. For example, living in financial insecurity can be incredibly stressful. Constantly worrying about how you're going to pay for rent, buy food, or take care of your other basic needs creates a lot of stress. And this stress can wear down your emotional and mental well-being, which can cause fractures in your social relationships or even make it difficult to work. Additionally, elevated stress levels can cause your physical body to deteriorate. So, like each of the other dimensions of health, it's vitally important that you intentionally create healthy habits to boost your financial well-being. So here are a few financially healthy habits you can integrate into your life. Learn how to create and stick to a budget. Understand the difference between needs and wants. Check in and track all of your spending on a regular basis. And start planning for your future now. The reality is that you're never too young to start building financial security. So it's time for you to take this information and to intentionally build healthy habits in your life so that you can enhance your financial well-being both for now and the future.
Hey. Okay. Should I start sharing again?
Einstein described compound interest as the
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Gabby. Of course, stress, difficulty concentrating, and then poor physical health are some of the things that can complicate your life if you're not taking care of your financial health. So figuring out what your net worth is how to start. The first place you start at figuring out, where you sit financially. That's your most important asset, and it's an overall picture of what your financial health is. Having all of your assets listed on one side and your liabilities listed in another column, and then you can subtract your liabilities from your assets, and what's left over is your net worth. So if you're saving for an emergency fund, your net worth is going to show that you're saving. It's going to show up in there in your cash savings fund. So if you're planning on paying off student loan debt, or you're actively doing that, of course, a lot of people aren't right now because of COVID. the student loans the repayment plans have been put on forbearance, and that will end on January 31st, tentatively. So if you have a federal student loan, you're probably not making payments on it. But at our agency, we advise anyone who can make a payment on a student loan debt to do it, because 100% of your payment goes to your balance, because no interest is accruing during this time. So that's just a little side there. But all of the ways that you're paying down your debt or increasing your savings are things that are going to show up in your net worth.
Just real quickly, the one other thing I would add to that is, it starts out as just a snapshot of where you are as a point in time, but it's a good idea to kind of get an idea of where that is. Again, it's, as Donna said, it's your starting point, and ideally you'd want to be growing from there moving forward. But the whole idea is you just have to figure out where you are to begin with, and then you kind of go from there. So.
Right. And it makes it a lot easier to make a plan when you know exactly where you are, as far as how much you have, how much you owe, how much you need. It makes it a lot easier to make a plan, like Tom was talking about in the beginning, making some goals and having those little goals and then those bigger goals. But your focus is always going to be on that bottom line, on your net worth and your priorities. So some of the things that we need to deal with when we maybe aren't exactly where we want to be, at whatever age we are, we have to avoid denial, because we can't just stick our head in the sand, don't open the mail, don't answer the phone. We've got to deal with things that are happening and make sure that we have a plan. And if that's a tough thing for you and you're having difficulty doing that, our agency, our counselors are all really, really skilled at helping with those things. They can take actual numbers. It's not just kind of a pretend budget that we hand you and then you have to go on your way and figure it out. Our counselors will take all of your information, your debt, your assets, everything, and create your income and create a budget based on those numbers. So if you're having problems and you're in denial and you're not dealing with things, give us a call. We are a judgment-free zone. We can help you figure that stuff out. Then you can do things like setting goals, making goals, working towards goals, and establishing a budget is the very first part of that. So figuring out these things, these are questions you ask in the beginning. What is my current net worth? What is my budget? Am I aware of my spending habits? So if you're not, you need to figure out what your attitude is towards money. I always like to tell people, I have 3 children. They're all totally different. My oldest daughter, when she was younger, if she had a dime, she was going to find a place that sold bubble gum by the stick. She was not going to let any of her money go to waste in her piggy bank. She was spending and getting rid of it. My other daughter is very thoughtful about her money. She's, saves for things that she wants and takes care of, most of the time things that she needs. She gets in a little trouble with automatic subscriptions that are coming out of her bank account. She works towards that and, kind of reviews her bank statement. But my son is the world's biggest miser. He saves every dime. If he can get somebody else to pay for something, he will. And God forbid, if you borrow money from him, he's going to hound you until you pay it back. So those are some different attitudes towards money. And Gabby, if you could share this video, it shows this person's attitude towards money. And I'm sure this is somebody that a lot of people may not know who he is, but he's pretty famous rapper. And his attitude is really, it's a really good attitude.
Clearly not particularly. I heard a story that you wanted to buy a watch, and at this point,
Oh, it's Eminem.
Millions of albums. So you wanted to buy a watch.
I know the story.
Is that true? You called up your manager to see if you could afford to buy the watch.
Yeah. I think it was a Rolex. Was it a Rolex? It was a Rolex. And I asked him, could I afford it? Because they make fun of me for it, but I'm for real. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, this is the whole money thing. All that stuff was brand new to me.
Even hip hop at that.
I know, right? Yeah.
You need to step it up. Your diamond studs.
I will. Hey, listen, I said I bought a Rolex, right? That's not a cheap watch. I still have that Rolex.
Yeah, but it's not like, that's...
I don't wear it because I don't want to get a scratch on it.
Is that right? Is that true?
Yeah.
So what are you wearing right now?
This is a G-Shock.
A G-Shock.
It's probably about $100. Right?
So he's very thoughtful about where he's spending and how he's spending his money, and even though he has a boatload of it, Eminem is got it going on with taking care of his money. So the ultimate goal of doing all this financial planning during your retirement and before and during retirement is to protect that bottom line as long as you can, so that you can do the things that you've worked so hard for your whole life, and continue to be comfortable in your retirement. So to calculate, like I said, your net worth, you're going to add up all your assets, subtract all the liabilities or the debts from the total, and that is going to be your net worth. What you own minus what you owe. These are things that, kind of basic. Your positive net worth is when you have your value of your assets is more than your debt, and the negative is going to be the opposite. Your debt is exceeding the value of your assets. Hopefully you're in this positive net worth side. So assets can include anything. They don't have to be cash. If you have a car, what is it worth? Do you owe anything on it? That's going to go on the liability side. If you have jewelry or electronics, you have big collections of, fancy musical instruments or coins, stuff like that. Liabilities are going to be things like your mortgage or home equity loan, car loans. If you owe taxes that are past due, whether they're property taxes, income tax, those kind of things, they are liabilities. You really only want to include larger items in your net worth, because if you need to get cash quick for some reason, those are things you can liquidate pretty quickly. You can sell them on eBay, or you can trade them, or those are things that you need to include. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, and I think that it's good to have for a net worth calculation, just to kind of give you an idea of where you're going on a year-to-year basis. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff in there. So again, it's the idea of growing that net worth over time that's really helpful, and really helpful for you to you get that mindset. Okay, I'm growing my net worth. How do I do this? I have a lot of different ways to do this, but at the end of the day, when you're looking for retirement and you're trying to find those funds, it's really that 401k, it's your investment accounts. It's, because you're not necessarily going to, if you're in a position where you need to sell jewelry or electronics to retire, you probably need to keep going for a little bit more. I mean, unless you've got a lot of jewelry or a lot of electronics or something like that. So it's helpful in the sense of kind of knowing and understanding what that net worth is. And it may be that you have jewelry that's just going to grow in value for whatever reason. It's unique for one reason or another, or it's not electronics. It's, what are these, NTFs? Something like that, where, it's just a something in Bitcoin, so, there's a lot of different reasons for it. But at the end of the day, you really want to focus on those liquid assets, and it's the accounts, the savings accounts, the checking accounts, and like the investment accounts. So for the 401k, that type of thing. So anyway, sorry, Donna, go ahead. No,
that's okay. Thanks. Anytime you can share more, that's great. So, budgeting choices happen. They can change. They actually do change, probably for most of us, all the time. We we decide whether or not we are going to eat out, this weekend or next weekend, or, buy that new Tesla or not. We have a cousin who just bought a Tesla last week, and it's a hard thing for me to fathom. So, but, budgeting is really, really important. It's not difficult. It might be a little bit time consuming in the beginning, but once you get used to the idea of doing it, it's just like Tom said, it's a living document. It kind of flows with where you are in life at any given moment. So when you're talking about retiring, you want to create your retirement budget. Are you thinking of doing traveling? Do you have some medical issues or things that are going to come up and that you might have to include in your budget? Or you might just want to do some of that long-term care planning, and that can be a part of your budget too. So it's going to always reflect priorities, and these four or five things here: paying off your debt, creating savings, having an emergency fund is really critical, and it's separate from a savings account. So you might want to have two separate accounts for those, because your savings is exactly that, a savings, and then an emergency fund, because you never know when you're going to have an emergency, but it's pretty much a given that at some point there's going to be an emergency. And then intermittent costs, things that just come up occasionally, but they don't come up every month. You want to budget for those things too. And we're talking about things like your annual car insurance, or registering your car, your Amazon Prime renewing, those kind of things. Are you going to have to reduce your expenses or increase your income to take care of any of these things that are that might come up or that are coming up? You've got to plan for those things, and that's part of your budget. Keeping your focus. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to butt in like that, but creating a retirement budget, I think if you've already made a budget, it's a little bit different than if you're creating a retirement budget, because you're kind of moving from a part where you're trying to save for retirement. So you're in this kind of wealth accumulation mode, and all of a sudden you're into this, okay, I'm not really saving anymore. I'm trying to spend, and I'm trying to find the right way to spend. So to me, when you start looking at a retirement budget, the first thing you got to look at is, okay, it's like, how much am I going to need on a monthly basis? What are my expenses? They're different now, because I don't have to necessarily think about, putting in I don't have to save for my 401k anymore, because let's face it, I'm already there. So, it's kind of that you're kind of shifting that savings and say, okay, what am I really spending on, and how much should I be spending on some of this stuff? And as Donna said, the medical is, I'll tell you, every person that I talk to who's thought about retiring, it's, what do I do with the medical? How do I get there? How do I bridge? If I'm retiring before I'm 65, how do I get in front of that between here and Medicare, before Medicare? Because that is a monster of a bill, and you got to figure out the best way to do that. And there's no one easy way to do that. But I think that's something that, if you're going to research something, that's something that I tell you, that's where a lot of people get stuck. Traveling, absolutely, because you're going to be spending more than you normally do. But it really behooves you to kind of take a step back. And we always talk about this on our regular budgeting. When you start thinking about how you're going to budget your money going forward, the best starting point that you can use is to look back on what you've spent over the last 3 to 6 months, for your housing, for your housing, for your car, for your utilities, that type of thing, for your food.
Things that aren't going to change, right?
Exactly. Things that aren't going to change, but then also things that could change depending on, but it's essentially looking at a budget that you would have going. It would look like a normal budget that you would have, but then you have to kind of take that extra added step of saying, you know what? I don't have to worry about saving anymore. It's kind of in the back, it's already done. So I have the number that I need to retire going forward, but now I don't have to worry about the saving, but I do have to worry about, again, I'm going to pull out a few things. I still have those same living expenses that I've always had. It may be the mortgage, it may be the groceries, whatever. That's really not going to change. It's the number of times I eat out that may change. But you start looking at it and saying, okay, am I going to travel? Well, then you got to add that into your budget. And then the medical is that other piece that you have to try. And again, it's just different for everybody. And it's that to me is just mind-boggling, but that's what you have to try and figure out when I think about making a budget that's going to transition me from a working guy to a retirement guy. So that's kind of, anyway.
Nope, that's great. That's great. It puts it all into, I think a lot of people can relate to that now. And if they, start thinking about it. Yeah. And then that opportunity cost is a big thing that can be affecting you during retirement, knowing that if you are spending you have this retirement budget. Now, if you're spending money on this thing, then what am I going to not be able to use that money for? So just knowing what opportunity costs can do and how it can change your what's happening with your budget. So that retirement budget is, we're just going to kind of keep hammering that in there. Relieve stress about money. It can improve your quality of life. If you're not stressing about money, you're going out and taking a walk. You're meeting with your family. You're doing all these things, and stressing about money is something that can keep you from doing those things. So, and the budget can help you avoid spending too much too soon. And that's what Tom was just talking about. It's kind of, a hard thing to think about and an overwhelming task at times. So gather all those financial records, make a list of all your expenses, and then estimate your retirement income. So it's funny, whenever you're talking about buying something, a house, a car, you're getting a loan, for something, you're always talking about your gross income. They're always going to give you a loan or give you offer you money based on your gross income. But your net income is really what you want to think about, because that's what what everything that you're paying for is coming out of. You can't spend your gross income. You can only deal with your net income. So when we talk about expenses, we always talk about these three types of expenses. So the fixed expenses that happen every month, it's usually the same amount, your rent, your car payment, health insurance, things like that. One type of expense that everyone is going to have. And then your variable expenses. And this is where these things fluctuate every month, but it's also where you can make the biggest changes in how your the amount can differ. So your utilities, whether you set your air conditioner at 75 or 78 when it's hot, like 90 degrees like today, that can change the amount of what your utility bill is going to be every month. And you can either spend more or spend less. Groceries, are you shopping at Whole Foods or are you going over to Aldi? Those are the ways you can change how you're spending your money. And then clothing, of course, there are things that you need, but then there are also things that we want. And so you can change these expenses, the amount you're spending on them. So those are the two main kinds. And then there's those periodic expenses. And these are things that kind of catch people, all the time, people that don't really have a budget. These are things that are going to happen sometime during the year. They're really important, but they don't happen every month. Car repairs, registering your car, that happens once a year. You get an oil change, depending on how much you travel and what kind of car you have, you may have to do it more frequently or less frequently than depending on what kind of car it is. Home maintenance and school tuition, things like that happen, but they don't happen every month. These are the things that can really break someone's budget if you're not planning in advance for it. And so we're going to talk in a minute about ways that you can plan for those periodic expenses. So these examples of a budget, are pretty basic here. So you're listing all of these expenses and you're minusing it from your income. If you've got less expenses than you have income, then you've got this surplus at the end of the month. And then here's the opposite. This person's got a little shortage at the end of the month, and so they're going to have to change something. And right here in this this variable expenses is where you can make those changes most easily. And then you can always think about, and a lot of people do when they get to the retirement stage, think about a reverse mortgage. It's commonly known as a reverse mortgage, but the real name is a home equity conversion mortgage. So when you're thinking about these reverse mortgages, there's a couple things you have to consider before really jumping all in. And that's, have you already retired? Or are you thinking about retiring? You're looking at that budget and thinking about how comfortable am I going to be during retirement? Am I going to have enough? And you want to think about saving your liquid assets, your cash and things, your 401ks. Do you want to kind of save those so you can last a little bit longer, in that arena? Are you planning on moving or downsizing, or do you want to stay in your home? Do you have a ranch and you just want to kind of stay there and not have to move? Do you want to do some changes, add, maybe some ramps or, some things to make a walk-in shower or, things like that. Those are things that you can kind of make some changes and so that you can stay in your home rather than, moving and having to pack up a lifetime of things in your home. So reverse mortgage, things that are positive, that reasons they may work for you is, like I just said, staying in your home. Reverse mortgages are great for people who want to stay where they are. They're in a good place. They, it's not, you don't have a 3-story townhome or something, so you don't have to worry about navigating stairs and stuff. So you think you want to stay right there. You're near your kids and your grandkids. Those are things that you think about. Conserving your liquid assets and having more financial flexibility during retirement is a big reason why people will take a reverse mortgage. And we have a couple of counselors who are certified in reverse mortgage counseling. And if you are thinking about a reverse mortgage, one of the things that a lender will require you to do is to see a counselor before you get the reverse mortgage. So reasons of reverse mortgage might not be for you. It's that your debt will continue to increase over time, and that's the amount of equity in your home will continue to come down. And then when the house is sold, the equity, will be less, and it may be that there is none at the time of selling. So upfront fees for reverse mortgage are costly, even though a lot of times most of the time they're rolled over into the balance of the loan, they're financed. So there are additional fees for reverse mortgage. So you might, you'll want to think about those. So do you want to take this on yourself, or do you think you might need some help? Is it complicated? Do you have your situation may be more complicated. You may already be kind of dealing with some of these things that we think about during retirement and as we get older. Do you have the resources to figure this all out yourself? And here's the big thing, and we always say you don't want to have too much month at the end of your money. So if that's something that looks like might happen for you, you might need, you might want to talk to a counselor. So Like Tom said in the beginning, we are not for profit. We are certified through the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. We're HUD certified, and that's where that reverse mortgage counseling comes in. We are certified by the Department of the Housing and Urban Development Agency, so we can counsel in all areas of housing. We're also court approved for bankruptcy counseling, and all of our counselors are trained and certified. Again, we provide that personal finance and debt management counseling, basic budgeting, credit repair. We have a debt management program where if you know someone who might be kind of drowning in some credit card debt, you can meet with one of our debt management counselors. Myra's really, really passionate about what she does, and she's helps people get into a debt management program where they're paying off their debt in 3 to 5 years and increasing their credit score rather than filing a bankruptcy that does the same thing in 3 to 5 years, only have that judgment on your credit report for 7 years. We do that bankruptcy pre-filing and post-filing education. And that is one of the debt management program and this bankruptcy counseling are the two things that we do charge a fee for. The bankruptcy counseling, because it is court mandated. People don't just come in for the heck of it to have a bankruptcy counseling session. So we do charge a small fee for that. We do all of these education workshops, and we do outreach for this all the time. And we love that we're being asked to present these things in libraries all over Northern Illinois. And we can help people in all the Northern Illinois counties, actually all over Illinois, we can help people. So there's our contact information, 815-338-5757. We just redid our website, so check it out. We have photos of all of our counselors and staff in there, and a lot of information about our services. So that's about the end of our presentation. I don't know if there are any questions or comments.
So right now we haven't received any questions. If there's anything you'd like clarified, please leave a comment. We're on Facebook or YouTube, so if you want to send them through there as well, feel free. As Donna mentioned, it's a pleasure working with them. So as much as information we can glean from them, we're going to keep bringing them back. So coming in the next month, we're going to have Understanding Credit Reports on September 20th. And then October 4th, we're also going to have the real cost of home ownership. So if you would benefit from this information, someone else who's, trying to get understand their credit, a young teenager, a family member, friend, neighbor, anyone who might benefit from this information, please let them know to check out what we have at the library, or go ahead and contact Donna and Tom directly at the CCCS.
That's great. Thanks so much, Gabby. We're always happy to be at the Addison Library.
All right. Well, it doesn't look we have any questions, but we did have a thank you from Dina. So thank you, Dina.
Thanks, Dina.
And thank you for everyone else who stayed with us throughout this whole presentation. I saw those numbers there. I'm so glad we can have you here. All right. Awesome. Well, that's it for today. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.